Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. This will be my last video of 2021. The new year is coming in tonight, so Happy New Year everyone. Today is fabulous Fiddle Ficus Friday. I'll be working on my Fiddle fig. I'll also be working on my new tree, my Ficus Bengalensis. I just got this year and it's beginning to grow already. And I'll be working on a new Ficus elastica that I got this year as well. I bought this new Ficus elastica because it has a greener leaf than my other ones. My other ones are kind of a very dark purplish color, and you can see the difference in leaf color. These are more green. They still kind of get a red covering around the newly forming leaf, so they're quite colorful still. But yeah, I just wanted to have, a couple of different varieties of Ficus elastica because I really like them as bonsai. Here's a look at my Ficus Bengalensis, or Indian banyan tree. They get really nice aerial roots. They develop really nicely. They're fairly large leaf for a bonsai, but I'm not too worried about that. I'll just grow it into a medium to large size tree. So up top here, I'll show you the new growth that's come on since I bought the tree. Here's a close-up of the new leaf on my ficus, my banyan fig. And finally, here's a look at my fiddle ficus. So I've taken a few steps to transform this into a bonsai. I repotted it about this time last year. Midsummer, I cut the top off. I've got some new branching forming. So it's coming along. It's an unusual tree for bonsai. Very, very large leaves, but it's kind of a species I like, and I'm going to try and develop it into the nicest bonsai I can. Here's a look at my Ficus elastica, and the newly forming leaves have this bright red sheath that protects the leaf until it unfolds, and then that red sheath falls off. The Ficus lyrata isn't quite so beautiful. Here's a look at the Ficus lyrata growing tip, and it's not so nice looking. You get these kind of ratty looking sheaths around the leaves, and not something that's a colorful feature on the tree. I repotted my Ficus lyrata for the first time about this time last year, and it came from a nursery pot, and I put it into a bonsai pot. I did as much root work as I could, but the roots weren't great on it. I took the first steps in getting a nice radial root base, and I can see, in here, I've got some crossing roots in that. I've got some new aerial roots that have grown. I'll rotate it around so you can kind of see the root base. It's a good start. I'm starting to get some flaring at the base of the trunk here. But yeah, it's still got some more work to go on the root base, that's for sure. Here's an overall look at my Ficus lyrata, and to me, even though it has giant leaves on it, I still like it as a bonsai. I think it's kind of cool looking. I'm going to be sorting out the leaves today. There's a lot of leaves that are kind of growing really close to the trunk. I want to sort it out, get a little more light to the interior of the tree, maybe remove some of the larger leaves, see what's growing, and I'll also be cleaning up the pruning point. I just cut the top of the trunk off midsummer, and new branches have grown in, so I just want to clean up that pruning point. From this view, you can see all the massive leaves that are kind of shading out all the lower branches. So I'm going to try and sort them out a bit. So I'll start by removing some of these vertical leaves. So I'll come in here and just prune off the leaf. And there's a vertical leaf here I can prune off. In there. There's a leaf growing towards the inside here. I'll take that one out. Rather large leaf. So you can see, the leaves can be reduced on these to what I would call a reasonably large size. They'll never get small, but... So I'm just keeping the leaves that are kind of fanning outwards. There's one kind of vertical here. I'll take that out. Okay, so there's one, I've got two branches coming from one spot here. Interesting. So that is my highest branch, this one here. So
I don't want two branches coming off the trunk from the same spot, so I've got to pick the best one. And the best one is this one. It comes out in a nice radial direction from the trunk, and it's also between these other two, so they're kind of equally spaced around the tree. So the smaller one here is coming off. Just like that. Underneath this branch here, this highest branch, there's a lot of leaves, and I can't really see what's going on too well with the branching. I can see there's my lowest original branch down there, but there's another one above it, and I've got to see. Okay, so it actually comes out in a fairly good direction, and I'm thinking that the lowest branch on this tree might be too low. Let's have a look. Here's an overall look at the tree. So my lowest branch is right down here, and I'm wondering, do I want to start my branching up a little higher? Because this trunk will fatten up over the years, and you know, I'll have a very thick, short trunk until my first branch. I'm thinking that's what I should do. I should keep the higher branch and remove the lowest one. I think it's just too low to the ground. I mean, that's a valid style with a ficus, but you can see how the leaves are drooping down over the edge of the pot. It makes it hard to water if you don't, you know, if you can't get in there with a watering can. It's nice to have your branches a little higher. So because I have the two branches growing like one above each other, I think I want to keep the higher one. So here I go. I'm going to prune off the lowest branch. Just like that. Here's an overall look at the tree now. So I've got lots of branches. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 branches on the tree. I think next I want to reduce the stump where I cut off the trunk. Kind of clean it up so it blends in with this highest branch. All right, here I go. I'm going to get the ratcheting pruners in here. Cut it off on a bit of an angle. All right. That's looking good. I just need to make it a little deeper, like that. So there's the top pruned off, and you can see the latex sap coming out. That'll seal that cut up really nicely. Just put the latex all over the cut point. It makes its own cut paste. Just like that. So there's that stub off the top. I can count how old this tree is from the rings. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. My next operation on this tree is I want to balance the vigor of the branches. You can see I've got 2 really strong branches here, and the other ones, the apex one and the one down below, are a little weaker. So I'm going to prune the tips off these branches, try and get sub-branching on these. This will increase the vigor to these ones because they're just allowed to grow. So here I go. I'm going to prune this one back. I've got 2 outward facing leaves here, so I'm going to prune just above that, right here, like that. And then this one, I've only got 1 leaf back here, and I have 1 up here and then the growing tip. So I think I just want to take the growing tip off. Do I? I could take it right back. I could even take this one back further. I think I better take both of these branches back further. So I'm going to take them right back to here. Here I go. Like that, and to here. Big cuts. So there I go. That is pruned up. Looks like all the branches are getting light. I'm also going to prune off this aerial root that's sticking out of the soil here. So here I go. I'll prune that off. And it comes into the soil there. There's another one sticking out of the soil here I can prune away. I need to do a little weeding in here too. I've got some weeds sticking up. So here I go with the weeding. Get those weeds out of there. pull the weeds out while they're small before they get too rooted in there. Here's the front of the tree, and I'm going to take one more leaf off. This one here is growing above the one underneath it, so I think I'm going to get rid of that one. Like that. And that is it. That is all the work I'll be doing on my fiddle leaf fig today, or my Ficus lyrata. Here's a look at how much I took off today. It's more than I expected to be taking off the tree, but I think I've got the structure sorted out on the tree now. Good branch placement. You can see the trunk a little better now. It's possible in future years, you know, as the canopy develops up here, I may have to remove some of these lower branches still, kind of raising the canopy up as the tree gets larger. But yeah, it's a good start to a Banyan style Ficus lyrata. The next tree I'll be working on is my Ficus Bengalensis, and I'm going to begin by repotting the tree. I'm starting with the root system on this tree because the root system is one of the most important parts of a bonsai. Getting that nice radial root system, getting a nice fine fibrous root system, and balancing the roots so they're kind of all about equal vigor, and that gives you, the strength to develop a really nice canopy on the top of the tree. If you have a really poor root system, you can't develop a nice lush canopy on the tree. So the two go hand in hand. So today I'm going to be doing its first repotting. I imagine this tree was started from a cutting, so the root system should be, I'm hoping, decent on it, but we'll see. And today I'll be, trying to make the best root system I can out of this tree. And I'm going to repot it into a root maker pot, which might help the development of a nice fibrous root system. All right, the first step is to get the tree out of the pot. So let's see if it comes out. Yes, it does. There it is. Lots of roots. You can see them. I'm going to start by combing out the root base. This looks like fairly good soil. It's nice and granular, drains well, root bound or anything. There's lots of space in the pot for roots to grow, and it looks like the tree is really healthy. I've got to find where, if it is a cutting, where it ends. Find the best part to develop the radial root base. Whether it's up top here or further down below in the soil. I'm still working away at combing the roots out here. A few tangled roots that I'm trying to sort out. Yeah, I think this tree will be much happier in a more porous soil. It was a little wet here. Now I'm getting down to the roots here. So I've got one that wraps around here that I've got to pull out there. So I'm starting to rethink that it was started from a cutting. It's looking more and more like a seedling to me, because I don't see any point where the cutting was maybe cut off, unless it was a very small cutting. So maybe it started here as a small cutting, but most of these roots flow in quite well with the trunk. I think I'm going to have to wash this too. There's just, you can see there's a root that's curled around here. Yeah, that's going to have to be pruned off for sure. Okay, yeah, let me wash the root base, and I'll get this soil cleaned up, and we'll come back and start the root pruning. I'm washing the roots off with a spray bottle. I don't have anything to dunk the tree in. Everything's kind of frozen outside. So that's, giving me a clear view of what's going on with the root system. So the roots, it comes down, and then this is why it doesn't really look like a cutting, because I've got this root that kind of curls around here. It doesn't look like it was ever cut. At least not that I can see. As I said, it could be a really, it was planted as a really young cutting or even a leaf cutting or something like that. So I think my first job, or my first task, is to get rid of that spiral root. That one that I think is the taproot from the original, and I think it's a seedling. So that's what I'll do. Let me just get some of the soil out of here. Well, I guess I can get that out once I've got the root pruned off or shortened. So I'm going to prune it off right here. I think that'll be good. So here I go. Hard to get in there. There it goes. So there's that curly root. There it is. You can see how it curled around. Yeah, I'm thinking this was from a seed. It does not look like a cutting. So I'm just kind of combing out the roots, the ones that are under that curly root. A little more spraying. All right, so now it's time to start kind of the major root pruning here. So let me just clean up once again. I'll get rid of that curly root. All right, so here's a look at the tree. You can see the trunk has a slight curvature to it, which, it's not enough to make any difference to how the tree grows. It'll grow vertical. I do have some roots that are quite high up here. I think, I want to develop my radial root system down kind of at this level, not way up here. And if I leave these on, even if they're kind of like aerial roots, they'll thicken up way too much compared to the thickness of the trunk. I want to develop the trunk and the basic structure first, and then develop the fine aerial roots hanging down. So these are coming off. All these roots that are up high. Here's another one that's too high here. That comes off. This one, it's getting down to the soil level. There's some here, too high, too high, too high. So that leaves me, I'm just going to cut off these long roots. They're way too long here. Like that. So that leaves me with this now as a root system. So can I get a radial root system out of this? Yeah, that's a good start for a radial root system. I think that one's too high still. I'm gonna get rid of that one. Okay, yeah, I think that's the start of a good radial root system. You can kind of see it, the potential there. Okay. As I said before, the leaves are quite large on these banyan trees, so I need to grow it to a medium to a large size bonsai. So I'm going to leave all the foliage on the tree, pot it up, and let it grow, and try and develop that root system. That's my #1 goal, is developing that nice radial root system and a fine fibrous root system. With a good root system, then I can start working on the upper part of the tree, picking my height for my lowest branches and starting to develop all the structure of the tree. Here's a look at the root maker pot that I'll be putting the tree in. So you can see all the air holes for, air pruning the roots. Inside is all these ribs. So the roots grow kind of down alongside the pot. They hit these ribs and they try and go out the holes, and then they dry off in the air. So that causes more subdividing of the roots. And the pot's all ribbed so the roots don't spiral around the inside of the pot. So yeah, it's a pretty cool design. It gets you a nice fibrous root system and fairly well balanced. You still have to do your root pruning, every couple of years. But yeah, you'll get a good root system with a root maker pot, that's for sure. So I'm going to prepare the pot. Now, The disadvantage of them is they have large drainage holes, so all your bonsai soil falls out. So some people put a newspaper in it and it kind of holds the soil in. I don't know. I think my soil has big enough particles. I'll try and put the bigger particles in the bottom. See how it does. See if it kind of falls out. Usually once you get a bit of soil in the pots, you know, they're kind of held together by the weight of the soil and they don't come out the holes anyway. So I'll fill the pot up now. I've got my dust mask on. Whenever you're sifting these soils, always wear a dust mask. This stuff is not good for your lungs. So, you know, outside sometimes I hold my breath when I'm doing it, but you really should have some good protection on. So I'll fill the pot up now. All right, here I go. So yeah, I've got some fairly large particles, so I'm hoping it kind of stays in the pot without all falling out. So I think that's about the height I want to put my root base at, so I'll get the tree planted now. I'm going to put a little pile of soil for the tree to sit on in the middle here, just kind of a mound like that. And then I'll try and get the roots sorted out. I'll get out my root rake, kind of arrange them in a nice radial pattern. That's looking quite good. Yeah. I think that's a good start. So now I'll start filling in the soil. Again, kind of raising it up a bit as I put more soil in. Wiggle the tree a bit, raise it up a bit. That way those roots flow down from the trunk, flowing into the soil nicely. So they're not 90 degrees to the trunk line. You know, you don't want a flat radial root system on the top. You want it kind of curving down nicely into the soil. So just a little more soil around the base of the tree here. Like that. And that will be good. So I'll get the tree watered now. The soil in these root maker pots will dry out a little more quickly than a regular pot because of all the air holes in it. But you'll get a good root system, that's for sure. Repotting a ficus at this time of the year, you know, the days are dark. It's usually cloudy out in winter here. It's not the best time to repot a ficus, but it's going in the plant room where it's warm and humid, and I've got the artificial grow lights, so it should recover quite well in there. It doesn't get any wind or anything. There's no insects to attack it. I'll water it very carefully. I'll mist it, you know, a couple of times a day. So as long as those leaves don't shrivel up, the plant will be fine. Those new roots will love this new soil. They'll grow like crazy in it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting this tree like super vigorous. I'm really looking forward to working on the upper part of the tree, creating branches and getting that nice banyan style to it. I'll take my Ficus lyrata and my Ficus Bengalensis into the plant room now, and then I'll start work on the last tree for today, my Ficus elastica. I'm going to work on the last ficus of the year, my new Ficus elastica, the one with the greener leaves. It looks like it's a clump style. And I've got to think, originally I was going to put it in the root maker pot. And then I thought, I've kind of got some larger Ficus elastica. I think it's time to maybe try something a little more challenging, and that's to create a small bonsai out of it. I think I can do it. So let's go in and have a look at it. Here's a look at the base of the trees. And you can see there's some fairly small leaves there. I mean, there's my thumb. So I'm thinking, can I keep this small, like a small bonsai in a small pot, getting really tiny leaves on a Ficus elastica? I think it's worth the challenge to see if it can be done. So the root maker pot is out. It'll create too large a tree. I was thinking about the one I got at Kim's Nature, and I think that's too big too. So I'm going to look for a smaller pot. I've picked out a selection of pots, some smaller pots that might be suitable for the tree. So let's start with the largest one. This is a Japanese pot. It's really nice. I'm thinking too much soil volume. I think, you know, if I put it in this pot, the tree would grow quite vigorously. So I'm going to rule that one out. This is another Japanese pot made in Japan. Really nice. It's not bad. Let me have a look. I'm not really keen the green color of the leaves with the blue pot. I don't think it matches very well. It kind of, the color on the Ficus elastica is subtle, you know. It's got the greens and the reds. I think if you get too strong a colored pot, it just overwhelms the color of the tree. All you notice is the color of the pot. So I think something quite muted. So I've got three here. This one is very small, very, very small. I think it's too small. I think if I put the tree in the pot, it would dry out too quickly and I'd probably kill the tree. I think it's just too small. You know, it would look good in that pot. The reds go nicely with the stem and everything, the red color of the pot. But I think it would be a challenge to keep it alive, so I'm going to rule that one out just because it's so shallow. I've got this one. This is a handmade pot made by Tombo and Yoka. A round one. Again, the red color brings out the nice color in the leaves quite nicely. Might be a good choice. The other one is a gray one. It's a little bit bigger, quite a bit bigger. Tough decision. This pot would be nice. You can see there's the maker's name in the bottom. I'm just wondering, is it too small? Let me decide. Tough decision. All right, let's get the tree out of the pot and see what the root system is like to begin with. There it is, out of the pot. I'll get my root rake, start raking out the roots the best I can. Okay, we're getting down to the roots here. So far, they're still firmly attached to each other. So I don't know if it comes from one rootstock, or if they're just fused together, or if they're cuttings that were placed in when the tree was very young and they've totally fused with each other. I guess I'll find out more once I get the roots cleaned off more. Okay, let's get these roots washed off now. All right, I'll spray the roots, try and wash them off best I can. So it looks like they're all firmly attached to each other. Oh, this one's a little wiggly. This one. But the other two are very firmly attached. And I think it looks like there's a big root coming from this trunk, comes over here, and this one's a shoot off of that root system. So these two are definitely part of the same tree. The other one could be a cutting on top. No, I think it's another shoot that's come up from the root system. Yeah, it looks like it's firmly attached to the root too. So I think it's a true clump style with one root system. All right, I'm going to start the root pruning now. So I've got to get kind of a flat radial root system. That may be a bit of a challenge. I have a non-flat bulbous root system. So where's my root base is going to be? So here's my two thickest trunks, and I've got a root that comes out here. I think that's kind of where I want my root base to be, somewhere around this plane, my root plane. So I could keep this one. There's one up here that's too high. I'm going to take that off. It's an aerial root that's grown out. There's one over here, and one here, There's some aerial roots shooting up here. Take those out. One here, and one here, here. Just to clean up these trunk lines. The aerial roots will come later. Ficus elastica are really good for growing aerial roots. Okay, so I've kind of got it down to a root plane. I don't like this root, I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to cut off this bulbous one here, off of this one. I'm going to remove these ones going down or shorten them. These ones too. There's a bulbous one here, I'm going to cut through it. Like that. Moving the lower part. This one too. There. So yeah, just cut through those bulbous roots, keep the widest part of them. And that is starting to get there. You can see it's kind of a flat, fairly radial root system now. This root kind of crosses here. I'm going to cut this part of it off and this part. I'm trying to redirect it, maybe get something in a better, maybe I'll even take that right off. It's not growing in a good radial direction. I'll get some new roots growing out of that cut point, hopefully. Around this side, I've got a root that comes from in here and it kind of crosses over the root system, so I'm going to take that out. Okay. Bit of a bulbous root there. I'll just cut the bottom off of it. See what can happen. Like that. And I think that's about it for the initial root pruning of these Ficus elasticas. It's, you know, got a fairly good root system now, something that'll develop. Further root pruning will come in the future, but for now I think that's not too bad. So now I'm going to start the pruning of the upper part of the tree. So I've got 3 trunks. I'm just looking to see where my front would be. Probably here is quite nice. The biggest trunk is out front, second trunk is behind, and then the third trunk is kind of forward. A lot of good depth in that view. So I'm going to prune the main trunk off quite short. I want it fanning out towards the viewer, so I'm going to go right back to here. Here I go. Very short. So my next trunk has to be even shorter because it's smaller in diameter. And there's no leaves down at this level, so I'm going to look for leaf scars. It looks like there's one out the back there, so I want to grow this out the back, so I'm going to go right here, like that. And then my smallest one, again, the leaves are too high, so I'm looking for a leaf scar out this direction. There's one here. I'll go just above that, like that. Wow, that's reduction. Now, I'm thinking, with it reduced down so much, it could go in that round pot quite easily. Here's a look at that round pot. So I said the front would be somewhere about here. I think that's quite, you know, quite nice. I think that would look great in there. So let's put it in this pot. Lots of room for the roots to grow, and it'll keep it small, restricting that root system. So hopefully I can create a little miniature Ficus elastica. I've got my drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so I'll put a base layer of soil in now. Okay, here I go. I think that's good. Now I'll plant my tree. Got my roots kind of arranged radially. Get that main trunk kind of vertical. And then I'll add the soil in. That's looking pretty good. It's in there nice and firmly. Now I'll give it a watering. So here I go. Here's a look at my little Ficus elastica planting. I'm not sure how this will turn out. It'll be interesting. You can see the leaves on it right now are very tiny for a Ficus elastica. And I think in the small pot and keeping it pruned fairly small, I think you'll see the leaves will stay very small like that. And I think, you know, quite an acceptable little bonsai can be made out of this. It'll be interesting. It's a bit of an experiment, so we'll keep you updated in the future. As always, I had fun working away on Ficus Friday and my last video of 2021. So I'll see everyone in the new year for season 9 of the Bonsai Zone. Have a happy new year. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.